Hi guys, so here is our next and final lesson for personal narrative writing or true story writing. And before we get started, let's talk about what we have been talking about. Let's do a little review on how to write, on how to revise, how to revise your writing. And one of the ways that you can revise your writing is by adding to your pictures. So add more to your pictures. Then you can add to your words. You can definitely add more words and give your reader more information and get very descriptive about who was there, what you saw, and what you were doing. Another piece of revising our writing is that you can add pages to your story if you think you want to give some more information, or there's just so much that happens that you need to add more pages, or you can add scrolls if you run out of room on your page. You can add more paper as a scroll underneath. And then I like to reread my story to make sure that it makes sense. And sometimes when you read your story, you say, this page doesn't really make much sense in my story. And you can always take out parts of your story. You can cross out sentences that don't make sense. Or you can take out pages that don't fit your story. So after you've written your true story, you've revised it and made it better, what do? What can you do? Now, if you remember from our original personal narrative unit, after you've added your pictures, you've added your words, you've gone back and you've made it better, you've revised your story, then you go and you start a new piece. So you start a new story. So let's do that today because I've already revised two of my stories. I revised my story about when I went to go see the butterflies. I also revised my story about when I went to the beach with my boys, my sister, and my nephew. So now I've got to start all over. So let's see. How do we write a true story or a personal narrative? And the first step is that we need to think about something that happened or something that you did. And I have thought about something that I did, and it was over Christmas break. And we went to go see the whales. We went whale watching, and we got to go on a ship, and it was super cool. So I'll tell you more about that in a minute, because that brings us to the next step, which is practice telling it in a storyteller's voice. You use pictures and words to tell who, where, and what happened. And at the very end of all that, you use speech bubbles to bring your story to life. So I already told you the first step, which is to think about something that happened. I did think about something that happened. So the next step is for me to tell you in a storyteller's voice about my whale watching trip. And I'm going to say it across my fingers, remember, so that I can know how many pages I might be needing. So we went to Punta de Mita in Nayarit, Mexico. And we got up early and we were having some breakfast, trying to decide what we were going to do that day. And somebody came up to us and said, hey, do you guys want to go see some whales? And we thought that was a great idea. So we went on a boat. We got on a boat and we went out into the open sea. And we circled around in the open sea and we saw some whales at sea. So that was super cool. So we just kind of circled the sea and we had to be really quiet, and then we would see these whales and they would spout water. It was really amazing. After we saw the whales, they took us to this island in the middle of the ocean, and we got to get out of the boat. We got to jump into the ocean and then swim out to the island, and we got to play on that sandy beach for a little bit. And then after a little bit, they said we all had to come back in. So we got back on the boat and we got back in the boat and we went full speed back to the shore. And when we were going full speed, the water was just splashing all over our faces. And that was it. We got out and we had to go change our clothes because it was all wet. And it was really amazing. So it was a really cool trip. So now I've told you, I believe I need 5 pages. So now that I've said my piece, I am going to go write. I'm going to go back and write all the things that I told you in my storyteller's voice. Now, if you remember, our next step is to tell with pictures and words who, where, and what. So I will show you the first part of my story, and I will draw my pictures first, and then I'll go back and add my words. All right, guys, so I'm going to get started. And so we've already done two of the steps, or I've done two of the steps about how to write a true story. So I've already thought about something that happened or something that I did, right? And I went on a whale watching tour over Christmas break. And then I went ahead and told you guys in my storyteller's voice what happened. So you might want to do that with mom, dad, or sister, or anybody in your family, is practice telling them in a storyteller's voice, and try saying it across your fingers so you know how many pages you might need for your story. So I decided I need 5 pages for this story. And then our next part is to tell our story in pictures and words. Remember, you have to tell who was there, where you were, and what you were doing. So I like to start with my pictures first before I go back with my words, because sometimes it's hard to remember all the parts that you said in your story. So I'm going to start with my pictures. And so if you remember, we were having breakfast, right? We were having breakfast at this restaurant, and we were trying to decide what we were going to do that day. So here's a table, and my sister, remember, that's part of who, you got to tell who was there. My sister was there, and I'm going to label her Lily. And this first run of pictures doesn't have to be super detailed, because you can always go back and add more. My other sister was there. My niece was there. And Jacob was there. And then on this side, and I was over here, sitting over here on a chair. So there's Miss Alanis. That's me. And Ezekiel was there. And my nephew Andrew was there. And then our dog Kiwi was there. And she was under the table. So I'll just I'll draw her tail here. And she was waiting to get goodies from friends. So that's Kiwi, because she was also there. So that's Andrew and Ezekiel and Jacob, my niece, and my sister, my other sister, Martha. So that was my first part of the story. We're sitting around, we're eating some breakfast, and we are trying to decide what we are going to do that day. So that's the first part, and I'm just going to go through my pictures. The second part is that a guide came up to us and told us, hey, why don't you guys come on this whale watching tour? So we decided we were going to go. And let's see, did I do all parts? I said who, where, and what. So we were getting on the boat to go on this whale watching tour, and Ezekiel and Andrew decided to stay, but Jacob, myself, my sisters, and my niece decided we were going to get on this boat and we were going to go watch the whales. So we got on the boat. And then the next part of my story, next, we were in the water on this boat. And I'm going to make my boat kind of small here. And there was a lot of other boats, boys and girls. They were also looking to see the whales. And we did get to see some whales, and we would see kind of like their humps when they would kind of do like a little flip, and they would spout water. So we did some whale watching. And I'm going to put our little faces here because we're watching the whales. So we weren't the only people on the boat. There was lots of people on the boat. But some whales, and we saw them spouting water. So that's the next part of my story. And then after we saw the whales, they took us to this island. So here's my next part. They took us to an island, and we got to jump off the boat and swim out to the island. So there's the island. There's my island. I'm going to draw the boat over here. And remember, I can always go back and add more. This was a quick sketch so I don't forget my story. And then after we got back on the boat and we were coming back super fast, and I'm going to draw all of us here on this boat. And I'm going to do some little lines here like this because the boat was going super fast and it was like breaking against the water. And we had all this water that was just splashing into our face as we were heading back to shore. So I'm going to do the shoreline here. So we came back to shore and we just got soaking wet by the water. When we got back to shore, we got out and we had to wait because we had to change because we were just soaking wet. Not only from jumping into the ocean, but because our trip back, we got splashed by a lot of water. So that's me and my sister and Jacob, Yelly, and my other sister. So that's all of us. We're getting back because we need to go change our clothes and get into some dry clothes so that we can go finish the next part of our vacation. So that is my story, you guys, in a nutshell. And so you should do the same, you know, go back, tell us in pictures and words. So the next step for me is going to go back and add my words. So I'm going to go back and add my words and you go do the same. I look forward to seeing your next true story, your next piece, your next personal narrative. All right, guys, see you in the next lesson.